February 27th, 2019. I will call upon Deputy Supervisor Charles to lead us in the pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll ask the town clerk to call the attendance.
Okay, Councilman Rossman, Councilwoman Deputy Supervisor Charles, Councilman Wanunu, Councilman Weissmandl, Supervisor Specht.
Here. First item, we have public participation. Anybody from the public wish to address the town board? Mr. Romanowski. Yes.
It's Robert Romanowski, 183 Maple Avenue, Muncie. When the last town board meeting here ended, there was a discussion going on about the Cultural Arts Center and what's going on there and everything. And also I see that Mavelli is showing movies there. How do they fit into the whole picture of the Cultural Arts Center? Also at the end of the last meeting, Mr. Specht, I talk about how you treated Councilman Wanunu when he tried to make some comments about the Cultural Arts Center at the end. You cut him off and wouldn't let him speak. Why wouldn't you allow an elected official to speak? This person has been elected by the people of the town of Ramapo and should be given the courtesy to speak on any item which they want. It's not a member of the public. It's an elected official. Also, previously on town of Ramapo agendas, at the end there was council member comments and comments from a supervisor's report. Those have disappeared from the agenda. So are you trying to silence members of the town board from speaking to by eliminating this? Second thing tonight is you're going to be doing some more hiring. A person at $145,000, $80,000 for another, and $84,000, adding up to $209,000. The audits aren't done. No one seems to know when they are going to be done. You have no idea of the financial picture of the town of Ramapo, but you still keep hiring and spending. First question is, when is the audit going to be done, the first one? We were told it was be ready on December 31st, then it's January 15th, then it's the end of January. Tomorrow's the last day of February, and we still don't have it. Also, there was a retirement incentive program that you had here to have town employees retire to lower the payroll. I think with all these hirings that's going on, the payroll is probably the highest that it's ever been. And could you explain why you need a constituent services representative in your office? You have Mordecai Becker, another person doing that. There's Phil Tisi. Why do you need three? That was never the case with the former town supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski.
You're welcome.
Anybody else care to speak? Yes.
Hello, my name is Diane Spar.
I'm sorry.
My name is Diane Spar. This is my partner.
Armando Gomez.
Hello?
We're from Miko Equestrian. We're currently leasing stalls at the Ramapo Equestrian Center. We were thrilled to see that on February 13th, the licensee agreement was canceled because the lack of management there actually has been horrendous. We've been there for 2.5 years. We have put our own time, effort into fixing and repairing the place for our benefit as well as others at the facility. Rusty, you probably know, was never present. I met him once in 2.5 years. My partner met him 3 times in 2.5 years. Bertrand, the manager, lives in Wellington, Florida. He's lived there since October of 2017. Never present. The place is being mismanaged by his old groom and another woman who has a business in the third aisle who has a criminal record. She was actually arrested in Suffern for a drunken driving, hit and run, possession of narcotics. So our question is this going up to bid? And we would like to bid.
Okay, at this time, we are just going step by step. with the process, so I don't have an answer for you, but we'll certainly be in touch and discuss the future of the property.
Now the question is, since they don't have a license, who will pay our stalls?
That I can't answer. That's going to be a legal issue of the status of their license. The board took a vote to terminate the agreement, but at this point, there's a notice that has to be given. I have to leave it in council's hand, and we'll deal accordingly.
Because we've been asked by this entity to leave the place. It's obvious that we are in their way. I would like to invite you to come to visit and see the difference between what we do for
And
the
what they
whole-
don't do.
for the whole barn and what they don't do. I would like you to come
Very good.
because they give us, first they give us 30 days, and now they give us to Friday to leave. We already have a consult from a lawyer. They send an email to you, to the town attorney, and to themselves. And I don't think that people that has no license with the town of Ramapo anymore is going to kick us out just for no reason.
Understood.
Okay.
We'll be in
And
touch.
we'd be very willing to write a check to the town to make sure you actually get money.
It's obvious that they never give the money to the town. We want to give the money to the town. We want to put the effort. We already put all our money to fix almost every single door in the barn. We've been in 2 different aisles. We have pictures, the before and after, so you can see what we found and what you have now.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Then at this point, I'll take a motion to close public participation.
So moved.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Weismandel. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 2, public hearing. We're going to hold a public hearing on a proposed local law to permit nonprofit organizations to receive exemption status if they purchase the property after taxable status date. I'll ask Mr. Lynch, our attorney, to go through the notices and the legal notices for the meeting.
Supervisor, prevent?
No, to permit.
Permit.
If I said prevent, it was a mistake. It's to permit.
Yes, yes.
I thought I said permit, but it's definitely to permit.
Supervisor, this is a proposed local law that deals with the sections 420A and 420B of the real property law to allow the town to authorize the assessor to grant real property exemptions for nonprofits who purchase property after the tax status day. This legislation is proposed as a local law, provides that all the postings and requirements have been met concerning this particular.
Very good. Unfortunately, our assessor, who had recommended this local law, is not able to be here. I believe, Chief of Staff, you have some information from him about this?
Correct. I've spoken to our assessor, Mr. Shedler. He fully supports and endorses that the town move forward with this. It allows for his ability to help those that certainly bought it in the midst of the year and would allow them the opportunity to benefit from that exemption, which they would normally be entitled to under other circumstances. So he's just sending me a text that, once again, he's encouraging the board to move forward with adopting this.
Very good. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the proposed local law. It reads as follows: be it enacted by the town board of the town of Ramapo, Section 1, legislative intent, Sections 420A and 420B of the real property tax law have been amended to allow the town by local law to authorize the assessor to grant real property exemptions for nonprofit organizations who purchased property after the town's taxable status date. Section 2, eligibility. Add a new Article 14, tax exemption for properties purchased by nonprofit organizations after taxable status date as follows. Eligibility: nonprofit organizations who purchase property after the town's taxable status date and who meet the requirements for tax exemption pursuant to 420A or 420B of the real property tax law may, within 45 days after the transfer of title, submit an application for tax exemption to the assessor pursuant to either 428-16 or 420B-8. B, the assessor shall review said application and make a determination on said application pursuant to the provisions set forth in the applicable section of the real property tax law. Section 3, effective date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State. I'll open this up to the public. Does anyone from the public wish to speak about the proposed local law? Call for a motion to close public comment.
Moved.
Motion by Councilman Weisman, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Is there a motion at this time? Motion to adopt the proposed local law by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. Discussion on the motion.
The only discussion I have is we have to discuss, I guess, with the assessor, there'll have to be some type of budgeting for this in the future. I believe like a reserve account anticipating some transfers after our budget closes and the taxable status impacts that particular list property.
Very good. That's a good recommendation. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Carries 4-0. We'll go now to item 3, agenda item 3, Town Attorney, A, approval of agreements. Mr. Lynch.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, this was discussed in a workshop session. It's simply a request for a resolution to authorize the hiring of an interpreter. There's a set fee per hour. This is the current practice in most justice courts. We recommend the board favorably consider it.
Any discussion or questions for Mr. Lynch? Motion? Councilman Deputy Supervisor Charles, second. Councilman Wanunu. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Next item, Fire Inspection Services for Village of Kaiser.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, this is a continuation of our IMAs, intermunicipal agreements, this time with the Village of Kazar. There's a fire inspection fee set forth per month, as well as additional hours, plus emergency fire hourly rate, and any after-hours to be billed. Our esteemed finance director is here. I think he'll confirm that this is an actual cost to the town. We would recommend the resolution be favorably considered.
Questions for Mr. Lynch? Motion?
The comment I'll make is we had the same agreement with, I believe, New Hempstead,
Right.
Correct.
and we made a little language adjustment for after hours.
And that's incorporated, I believe, in this. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, emergency inspections will be $70 an hour after hours. Great. Any, is there a motion? Motion by Councilman Wanunu, second by Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0. Go to item 3, agreement with O&R Utilities.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, this is a typical, traditional, ordinary road restoration agreement with Orange and Rockland, restoration of roads set forth in a proposed resolution. There's a specific amount with regard to a return fee from Orange and Rockland. We'd request, and there's backup set forth by our town attorney's office to this particular resolution. We'd ask the board to favorably consider it.
Any questions for Mr. Lynch?
Mr. Supervisor, if I may.
Yes.
I would just like to enlighten the board that in the history that I've been here, this is the very first time where we've seen such an act with Orange and Rockland in advance. Our highway superintendent, who's been here just about a year with us, actually negotiated with Orange and Rockland, sat with them for several hours in determining which roads we were planning on doing, is getting us the reimbursement. We have a much closer relationship than I recall over the years, and I'd like to acknowledge that our highway superintendent is here and that he's done an outstanding job of working on this and other projects with our utility companies.
I'd like to commend Superintendent Brin for the hard work on this and the negotiation. It's a very, very good result for the town. Thank you.
Is this, Mr. Brin, thank you, is this what % of the amount of the job is this?
Well, first of all, it is a confidential agreement in terms of, except for foiling purposes, but this agreement is in lieu of, basically what happens is when O&R or Suez does service upgrades on various streets, they open up a trench in the street. Typically, they shouldn't be just opening up, a 2-foot wide and just leave it at that, and they negotiate whether they'll go 6 feet, 8 feet, 10 feet, et cetera, depending on the width of a given road. This negotiation is based on the width and length of a given road. At their cost, had they done the actual repair. Truth is that we need to do these roads as well because of the state that they're in general. However, it's really, we would spend X amount of money versus what O&R, and our rate is cheaper than O&R's rate. So as opposed to getting nothing back, we're getting a full value of a road restoration but we will spend money for that road restoration, less than what this amount is.
No, I understand that. I was just asking roughly what the percentage is, 50%, is 20%?
I don't know, it's probably, there is some confidential aspect, part of the agreement, I'm not 100% sure I can, it's not dollar for dollar, it's favorable by, I would say, more than probably between 10 and 20%.
Thank you.
20% in our favor.
Very good. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Wanunu. Discussion?
Question, on the question? Superintendent Brent, how, does this speed up the process? Because I got 10 more votes for you right now that I can think of off the top of my head that we could do. Is it like 10 a year that we could kind of get done? Is that the focus, or?
The agreement provides for the fact that they're giving us this money, we need to do those particular streets. It's not like they're giving us this money and we can do 15 other streets besides the ones listed. Part of the agreement does state that we are committing to redoing those roads, that money's going to be used at some point in time for these particular roads.
So
Of
why,
course,
Okay.
yeah.
why on the resolution is there a list of A through J, but on the breakdown in this packet, there's another 4 streets?
I'm sorry? Why does it,
Here, he's saying that there
Oh,
are
there we go.
these streets,
right,
but only these streets here. Because these are the ones that we committed to.
No, but these amounts, 150 plus 70,
right,
seems to total up to 221.
correct.
So we're approving everything?
We're approving, what do you mean, we're approving what?
So might I turn the council to the page that says it's confidential, the agreement?
Okay.
And that listing over there, I
It
think
says,
we have to find out whether that's.
Paragraph 4, terms and conditions of this agreement are to be confidential by the town and O&R, except that this agreement and only the terms of this agreement may be
No, I'm
disclosed.
asking a question on something that's in this packet, so I'm
Okay.
assuming it's not confidential, it's in our packet.
Well,
Page A.3A has 2 groups.
That's how O&R references, they reference it by project. The streets listed under the Smoley project are specific to those 4 streets. Their O&R's Herrick project includes these 8 streets. That's how they,
Shouldn't those 4 streets be part of the resolution?
you are, yeah, well, it is. Sophia is on this document here.
I don't see
So
small-
you're correct. All the streets listed on this page 3.A.3.a should be listed on this resolution.
That was my
100%
question.
you're correct. Right. Every street that's listed here should be listed on here.
So is Smoley missing? Is that
Well,
what
no,
you're saying?
Sophia's here, Smoley should be added.
Okay.
Smoley should be added.
Thomas is there.
Yeah, Thomas
So we
and
should amend the
Cloverdale.
resolution to include Smalley.
Okay. And also First Street,
The streets here,
right?
it's letter
Okay,
E.
it's there.
Letter E.
Very good. So on the amended resolution,
Sorry, I'm sorry, it wasn't First Street.
So there's an additional.
Nestor Court.
Nesher.
Or
Right,
Nestor.
so Nesher and Smoley should be added to this.
all right, so let's amend the resolution to reflect Smalley and Nesher. There was a motion, I believe, to approve, and seconded. We didn't vote. No, we're having a discussion. We had discussion on the question.
I stopped you.
Right, we need to vote now.
Then I had a question. We did
No,
vote.
no.
Did I vote? Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded.
Thank you. Now, we'll, if it's okay with the movement, we'll amend the resolution to include Smoley and Nesher, and now we'll take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Now we'll go to item 3, number 4, license agreement with Friends of Harmony Hall.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, this was an issue that was before the board at workshop, but the details had not been presented. This proposed resolution sets forth specifically the term, the fee per month, the question of utilities and maintenance, as well as the town being an additional insured and the commencement date.
Yeah, and again, we discussed this at the workshop. The term would be 2 years with an option to renew for 3 additional 2-year terms. Fee would be $750 a month.
You may want to add how much the town's saving by doing this.
We're saving about $9,000 a year. because we're paying the expenses anyhow for the site without getting any income. This way we're getting, right, correct, $9,000 a year.
Other than this change, it's the document I saw on Monday, because I don't have the document in my packet.
I don't either, it wasn't included. I know it was being worked on today by the attorney's
I don't have
office.
the document.
The change would be on the term.
Everything else is...
Everything else is the same.
I don't-
It's what was
Great.
emailed to the town board yesterday, I believe.
Right, but that was
town
before
board
the
was
change.
emailed,
I didn't
and
have the
change
changes
was
yet.
based upon your recommendation.
Just that one change.
Just that one
To the
change
term.
for the terms.
Very good. Then I'll call for a motion to approve. Motion by Councilman Wanunu, seconded
Second.
by Councilman Weismandel. Discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Go to item 3B, amendment of the agreement with Frederick V. Clark Associates.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, this was also discussed in workshop. This provided for the additional up to $75,000 with regard to our planning consultant for traffic studies as required.
Thank you. I'll call for a motion to approve. Motion by Councilman Weismandel, second by Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. We'll go to item C, dedication of Dykstra's Way East.
Again, if I may, this is a usual request for dedication of particular roads. The town attorney's office has reviewed this with the Department of Public Works. We recommend the acceptance and dedication as set forth in the resolution.
Very good. Any questions? If not, I'll call for a motion. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That passes 4-0. Go to item D, recognition of court-ordered zone change.
This was also discussed in a prior workshop. The only change is the fourth whereas paragraph. It says the town was requested. It should say the town desires to conform to the foregoing. This is simply the town board recognizing a court decision and allowing the map to be changed by resolution. We recommend acceptance.
Then I'll amend the proposed resolution. Call for a motion to approve.
I just have a question for Mr. Lynch. We spoke about this briefly at workshop. Calling this a zone change, doesn't that effectively trigger secret requirements? Isn't this really dissolving a previous?
Councilman, it would if we did this by local law, the traditional way. You're 100% correct. But this was done by court decision. The court did not need compliance, although ironically, the court in the decision said the town didn't comply with CEQA, but the court changed the zone back to the R40 without any reference to CEQA. By operation of law, it can be done, so I respectfully believe that no further CEQA analysis is required to carry out a court decision.
Okay, call for a motion. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Wanunu. Any further discussion? Not all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. Go to item 3E, which is declaration of lead agency.
This concerns the town's comprehensive master plan review. In this particular case, there's a recommendation by the outside consultant, not our regular consultant, that a declaration of lead agency be adopted in which the town indicates they intend to be lead agency. We have no objection from the town attorney's office about this, but we would suggest that not all of the interested agencies need to be notified. We would just ask the board to consider approval, and for the agencies that are what they call interested, which means they don't make any part of the decision, that particular list be reviewed by council, but we do ask the body of the resolution be approved.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Lynch? Call for a motion. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded Councilman Wanunu. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. We'll go to item F, amendment of Resolution 2019-40, not-for-profit agencies.
This, again, was discussed in workshop. If I can defer to our chief of staff if she wishes to add to it, but it simply lists the amount and the other organizations in which they received.
So, Mr. Supervisor and Town Board, as we discussed, this organization's fee on this schedule was incorrect. It was supposed to be the same that it was last year. The difference is that the funding source for this will be out of two different sources of funds, which was budgeted for that way. So, however, we are asking you to amend the adoption of the non-for-profit schedule as listed in the resolution.
But the total amount is the same.
The same as last year, correct?
Very good. Is there a resolution to approve, a motion to approve the resolution? Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. We'll go to item 3G, acceptance of proposal for insurance from LeBaum Company.
If I may, Mr. Supervisor, board members, I'd like to defer to our Chief of Staff.
And the Chief of Staff will defer to Town Councilman David Wanunu, who heads up this committee. And I believe that there is an addition that you might want to add, subject to the approval of the town attorney and the insurance committee.
I'm actually sending our insurance agent actually an email as we speak.
So why don't we defer this? You want to wait until
Later
the
in
end
the
of the
agenda,
meeting?
if he
or-
responds.
I think it would be worthwhile.
That's good.
Okay, so then let's
We'll
hold this item.
Hold that open. H, I believe we're going to pull off. It's not ready yet. 7 Cedar Lane, we're waiting for further information. So we're going to pull that and put that on for a future meeting. We'll go to item 4, supervisor's items, approval of hardship waiver request from Fountain View. We discussed this at length at the workshop on Monday, and at the time, the consensus of the board was that we believed, and was subject to a vote, that a hardship waiver would be appropriate for the reasons that there is a need for the services. There's been a demonstration of a need for the services that are not being adequately fulfilled by other facilities, and a further delay will have a detrimental impact upon the people who need the services. In addition, with the knowledge that the Department of Transportation will be doing major construction work on the bridge at College Road by next year, delaying the application pending the completion of the moratorium will cause further hardship because they will then be possibly delayed further by the New York State construction. At this point, I'll open up any further discussion by the board.
Mr.
If I may,
Supervisor, if I
just-
may, before you do it, the applicant is
Yes,
here in
I
the audience,
noticed.
if we could give them a few minutes
If you'd like
after
to.
Mr. Lynch.
No, actually, what I was going to do is say we are honored tonight to have one of the premier attorneys in New York State, Eric Drainoff, here in person. And he will answer any questions the board has. Mr. Drainoff? Maybe the premier, not one of the premier.
I have to say, in response to Mr. Lynch, that the one thing that made me the premier attorney is knowing when to remain quiet. Okay? So the point is,
It was actually Marion that we wanted to hear from.
well, we have Marion Rokeach with us, who is really the driving
You decided
force.
this
and-
wasn't one of those times?
What's that?
You decided this is one of those times, remain silent.
So, go ahead, I'm an easy target. In any event, you're all, I'm sure, familiar with Fountain View. We've been around since 1998 as a congregate care facility in the town of Ramapo. We currently have 155 single and double bed, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments there. We are now 100% occupied, and we have a waiting list. Now, that sounds like a good thing, but it's actually not a great thing. And why it's not a great thing is we're the only congregate care facility in the entire town. And our type of facility is serving the senior residents of our town that provide the congregate care housing. There are no other congregate care housing facilities that could even be built now because the RSH zones in the town are limited. I've already set forth in our letter to the town that we have the comprehensive plans for the town of Ramapo and also the county comprehensive plan. Both recognize the critical need for this type of housing, and we would like to proceed with an application to add to the Fountain View facilities, but the current moratorium prevents us from being able to initiate the process and, again, to fulfill this need both to the community and to enable the town to fulfill its need to satisfy the housing for the senior citizens. We would request that we get the hardship waiver.
Thank you, Mr. Trainoff. Does anybody have any questions, Mr. Trainoff?
I did sketch a picture in the parking lot while I was waiting, if anyone wanted to see the plans, but I leave that to you.
He's a premier attorney, not artist.
Great. The board have any questions or discussion?
Well, being a target.
If not, I'll call for a motion to approve the request for a hardship waiver. Motion by Councilman Wanunu, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles. We have a resolution that was given to us tonight by council, so I think we need to also have a motion to vary our 24-hour notice. So, motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles. Let's do that first, to vary the notice. Seconded by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor? Anyone opposed? And now there was a motion and a second on the resolution. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
We'll move along to item 5, police. 5A, reimbursement for emergency travel, 3 detectives, major case. As I'm sure the board is aware, last week, there was a homicide in the town of Ramapo, and due to the excellent police work, the suspect was quickly identified and apprehended in Boston as he was attempting to flee to that city. As a result, 3 detectives had to travel to Boston to interview the suspect, and there's a request for $457.20 in reimbursement for their travel expenses.
Mr. Supervisor, you're going to have to waive the rules again. This was not on
Correct.
the agenda.
So first, let's do a motion to waive the rule for this one. Motion by Councilman Nunu, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles. All in favor? Very good. Anyone opposed? 4-0. Rule is waived. Now we'll deal with the question if there are 2 vouchers on, or two requests on. So this is, the first one is for the travel on last week to interview the suspect, and it's hotel and meals, total of $457.20. Any motion to approve? Motion to Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Nunu. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0. And now item B is related. Tomorrow, 27, 28, that's today and tomorrow, the police have to return to Boston to participate in an extradition hearing in order to bring the suspect back to the state of New York and the county of Rockland. So there is a request to approve $550 by the police chief to provide for travel expenses for the 2 detectives. Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, second by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries. We'll go to item 6, personnel. Ms. Condon, letter A.
Okay, item 6A is a resolution to enter into an agreement with ESI Group to provide the town with employee assistance program for non-police employees beginning April 1st, 2019. You had previously okayed this same group to handle our police employees, so this is for the rest.
Any questions from Ms.
If I recall
Condon?
correctly, we also are getting a savings, you mentioned?
Yeah,
Yeah, of over $2,000.
very good. Any motion? Motion by Councilman Wanunu to approve, seconded Deputy Supervisor Charles. Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0. We'll go on to 6B, approval of an agreement for an audit of the deferred comp plan.
The firm of Bonadio, accounting firm, has audited our plan per the mandate of New York State for 2 years in a row. This would be our 3rd year, and I'd like to have a resolution approved to enter into agreement with them to conduct our annual audit of our deferred compensation plan.
Any questions from Ms. Condon? A motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Approved 4-0.
This audit, is it going to be like similar to our finance audit, we can only have it for a certain period of time? Or are we able to use them as long as we want?
We enter an agreement, but as long as they're satisfactory, we can use them every year if we'd
But
like.
that's different than our finance, right?
Yes, it's different.
That's different.
All right, we'll go to item 6C, appointment of Provisional Director of Automated Services.
This is a resolution to appoint Harry Grossman as Provisional Director of Automated Services effective March 4th, 2019.
Any questions from Ms. Condon? Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Councilman Wanunu. Is there a second? Second on the motion? Second by Councilman Weissmandl. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0. Go to item 6D.
60 is a resolution to appoint Debbie McGee as Provisional Senior Purchasing Clerk Typist in the Purchasing Department effective March 4th, 2019.
Questions from Ms. Condon? Is there a motion to approve? Motion Deputy Supervisor Charles, second Councilman Wanunu. Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0. We'll go to 6E.
This resolution is to appoint Joseph Marger Etten as Constituent Services Assistant effective March 4th, 2019.
Motion by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded Councilman Wanunu. Discussion? All in favor? Carried 4-0. Anyone opposed? Carried 4-0. And then last, we'll go to 6F.
6F is a resolution to appoint Baruch Adams as Intergovernmental Relations Coordinator effective March 4th, 2019.
Any questions from Ms. Condon? Is there a motion?
Moved.
Motion by Councilman Weismandel, second by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 3-0. Now we'll go on to item 7, Highway. We have Mr. Brin, the Highway Superintendent, present.
Sure. A request has been made to change the street name, currently known as 132 Remsen Avenue, to become a private street called Stein Circle. It's recommended by the Department of Highway that the town board consider it and approve it.
Any questions for Superintendent Brin? If not, I'll call for a motion to approve. Moved by Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Passes 4-0. We'll go to 7B, installation of traffic control devices on Mariner Way.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman Charles, you were absent for the last.
I was right there.
She made the motion on the last
No,
one.
the one prior.
No.
Oh, no.
You were absent.
I think so.
Yes.
Yes, I was
Thank you,
absent.
Mr. Supervisor.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson. Mr. Brin, we go to 7B, Mariner Way.
As part of our Town Traffic Safety Committee meetings, and in coordination in conjunction with the recommendation of the town traffic consultant, Frederick P. Clark, it is being recommended that the board consider the following on Mariner Way. Item A, the installation of a no parking anytime sign along the north, east, and south sides of the road in a clockwise direction from the south to north intersection with Route 306. Installation of no parking signs along the north side of the road near the intersection with Ranger Road and on the west side of the road near the intersection of Voyager Court. And the installation of no parking here to corner signs on the north side of the road near the north intersection with Route 306, on the south side of the road near the south intersection with Route 306, and on the south side of the road near the intersection with Redstone Road. And finally, installation of stop signs and stop bars on both Mariner Way entrances or exits to Route 306. This is being recommended by the traffic consultant and the Traffic Safety Committee, and I would recommend as well that the board approve same.
Thank you, Mr. Brin. Any questions for the Highway Superintendent? Call for a motion. Motion to approve by Councilman Wanunu, seconded by Councilman Weismandel. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0. We'll go on to the next item regarding Nissan Court.
Under the same conditions and the same meetings, and upon the recommendation of our traffic consultant, Michael Galante of Frederick P. Clark, this regards Nissan Court, requesting the restriction of on-street parking. It's being recommended that A, installation of no parking anytime signs along the south side of the road from Muncie Boulevard to the west, to and including the cul-de-sac with a final determination to restricting parking within the cul-de-sac to be made by emergency services, with existing vegetation on the north side of the road cut back to allow for on-street parking. And B, installation of a stop sign and stop bar on the westbound approach to Nissan Court at the intersection of Muncie Boulevard. Again, it is my recommendation that the board approve same.
Any questions for Highway Superintendent Brin? Motion to approve by Councilman Weismandel, seconded by Councilman Wanunu. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carries 4-0. And then finally, Homestead Lane.
Again, under the same conditions of our Traffic Safety Committee and consultation with Michael Galante of Frederick P. Clark, this pertains to Homestead Lane, of which the following recommendations are being made. In two phases. One in the short term, which means it could be installed now, is the installation of no parking signs on the north side of the road for the entire length, and no parking here to corner signs on the south side of the road near Main Street, and to convert the road to one-way eastbound. That will be done immediately, or as the weather permits. Secondly, on the long term, it's going to include repaving the roadway, installing curbing, and installing sidewalks on both sides as needed. It is a recommendation of myself that the board approve same.
Any questions for Mr. Brin? Motion by Councilman Nunu to approve, seconded by Deputy Supervisor Charles. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carries 4-0.
Go back to the insurance.
Yes, we'll go back to 3G.
Just to give the public and the board an update, thank God 2018 was actually a very good year. We basically had a zero loss run for the most part, or minimal loss run. Unfortunately, given the prior years that we're still working ourselves through, we still have a pretty bad loss run from the prior years, which hopefully next year we should start seeing some discounts. This year, given the great year that we had in 2018, we had a minimal increase of about $40,000 for all the insurances that are listed, health officials, employee practice, and I believe there was a computer as well on here. Public officials, the one thing that we also discussed that we'd like to enter into a resolution, we're waiting, I guess, from our legal department, is for the crime policy. We have three options that were offered to us, a $100,000, $150,000, $250,000 coverage. At this point, there's still some questions as to which direction we would like to go. We're just still evaluating what the risks that we think we're exposed to. So what I recommend at this point is that we vote on the high amount. I believe that is what council was recommending for us to go with. And once the decision's made, we authorize you to do whatever it is that you need to do.
Very good. Thank you, Councilman Nunu. Any questions or discussion? If not, we'll call for a motion. Make a motion by Councilman Nunu, second by Deputy Supervisor Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 4-0. The next item is new business. Does anybody have any new business? Then, although it's, for whatever reason, it was not included in the agenda, certainly if any council members want to make comments, always welcome. And anybody wishes to speak? If not, under supervisor's remarks, I just have one thing to proclaim. Whereas the Lafayette Theater in downtown Suffolk opened its doors in 1924, and whereas the Lafayette Theater presented silent films and live portable shows through the 1920s, whereas the Lafayette Theater featured new talking pictures in the 1930s, and whereas the Lafayette Theater was the first theater in Rockland to screen 3D and CinemaScope films in the 1950s, and whereas the Lafayette Theater's future as a single-screen neighborhood movie palace was saved in 2002 when Suffolk resident Robert Ben Moshe purchased the theater and began its revitalization, and whereas the Lafayette Theater has been named one of the 10 great places to revel in cinematic grandeur by the USA Today, and whereas the town of Ramapo worked with the Ben Moshe family for over a decade to promote and preserve the historic Lafayette Theater, and whereas the Lafayette Theater has brought joy and laughter into the lives of Rockland residents for over 95 years, now therefore be it resolved that I, Supervisor of the town of Ramapo, do hereby proclaim Sunday, March 3rd, 2019 as Lafayette Theater Day. Thank you for the indulgence. And nothing further, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Motion, Deputy Supervisor Charles, seconded Councilman Weismandel. All in favor? Anyone opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.